everybody. Welcome back to the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. My name is Michael Crosa with Chattanooga Podcast Studios. I'm here with Elaine Zambos, Director of BNI Southeast Tennessee. Elaine, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about continuing education units.
All right.
CEUs.
Good old CEUs. This episode of the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast is sponsored by Heather Hendrickson, owner of the Hendrickson Agency, an insurance agency properly protecting your most precious possessions. Heather believes in people over policies, so a good referral for Heather would be somebody who wants the personal touch and care that only her office can provide. You can find the Hendrickson Agency on Facebook, Instagram, or their website and phone number are in the show notes below. Okay, Elaine, CEUs, continuing education units.
Yes.
What are they and why are they important?
So what are they and why are they important? One of our core values in BNI is lifelong learning. Mm-hmm. And that's even like when we're interviewing new people to come into BNI, we want them to be open to learn new things, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is as we learn and grow, the more money we're going to make.
Yeah.
And I came from a background of if you want to earn more, you have to learn more. Because the more we learn, right, the more money we're going to make.
Better we can do.
And so in BNI, we are about givers gain, helping one another make more money, right, by giving referrals. And we can also do that by learning more so that we can help one another. And so, in school, in a basketball game, baseball game, whatever, there's a scoreboard, right? Mm-hmm. And could you imagine going to the Lookouts game tonight and the scoreboard is blacked out? There's no score. You would lose interest pretty quickly in the game, right?
Right.
And so that's what we have in BNI is we have our scoreboard. And our scoreboard is called the Power of One. And so if you do these 5 things, your chances of success are going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
And so those 5 things are you go to your meeting once a week. Mm-hmm. You do one-to-one once a week. Mm-hmm. You give 1 referral a week. You do 1 continuing education unit per week, yes, and then 1 visitor a month.
Right.
And so like you said, so many times you get caught up and you're like, yeah, I did 1-to-ones, I got some referrals, I got a visitor coming. Mm-hmm. You're like, whoa, continuing education, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we do that? And so BNI has all kinds of opportunities for us to achieve continuing education units.
Let's talk about them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, one is just through BNI Business Builders. We've got an entire platform of courses that we can take, right?
It's a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we also have BNI Podcast. Dr. Ivan Meisner has a new podcast every single week. Yeah. We have the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast.
We sure do.
And you can listen to those and, also get a continuing education unit.
Also, shout out, I think there's Power of One is another podcast out there. And I know that there's a few others. We want to share love with our fellow BNI podcasters.
Yes, absolutely. And so there's lots of opportunities for us to do that. Well, I also think that, I have a commute. It's about a 30-minute commute to my office. And I am a subscriber of audiobooks, right? And I feel like you can get an entire college education just by commuting and listening,
just listening
right? To listening to different books. And so for me, that's incredible because I don't really care to get caught up in all of the talking heads and the opinions on the radio or whatever. Right. And quite honestly, it makes me a little bit nervous when they're talking on top of each other and all.
Oh, yeah. It stresses me out.
Yeah. So, there's lots of opportunities that way as well. So, we've got people in our chapter that Kevin from Scenic City Solar, his goal is to do a continuing education unit every day over his lunch hour.
Right.
And so he's listening to a podcast. He's reading BNI Success Net.
Webinars.
He's doing a BNI webinar. He's doing something.
He's getting it.
Yeah. And so, when he first joined the chapter, I was like, gosh, this guy sells solar. Like, how many referrals can he get? He is amazing. Like, he's given a ton of referrals.
Yeah.
He's received a ton of referrals. And I really credit a lot of his success to he's educating himself how to be a better networker and how to find referrals for people.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
And so we have lots of member stories like that where, they've totally embraced, the whole idea of continuing education.
Yeah. There's the learning piece, and then there's that second part of actually implementing. And that Kevin's a great example of that. But yeah, you learn, you do the things, and then you make it really happen. And so do you know the show Suits?
I don't.
Okay. Well, Hannah and I, that's my wife, we've been like deep diving on this, or binging, I guess, as they say. It's about lawyers.
Okay, Suits.
Lawyer. Yeah, Suits.
Okay, Suits.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said shoots.
Oh, shoot.
I'm like,
yeah,
shoots
like
suits.
in ladders? No,
yeah,
Suits.
Suits.
There was a line that popped out to me. They're like, high-powered New York attorneys, right? And one of them, kind of a running joke, is that, Michael Jordan is one of the clients of the firm. And so they'll make Michael Jordan references every now and then. And one lawyer said to the other something about like, oh yeah, I've been reviewing the game tape from this, whatever, from our last court case to see what I could do better. And the other lawyer says something like, I'm probably butchering the scene, but the other lawyer says something like, oh yeah, I bet Michael Jordan, if you're the best, you don't have to watch the game tape. And the other says, are you kidding? Michael Jordan's watched more game tape than anybody. And the point is, review what you're doing. Think about what you're doing, right? Really analyze, really think about it. And I know that as a podcast producer, it's kind of convenient that everything that I do is essentially game tape, right? I can look back, and that's something that I need to actually do. And I just think about that with the continuing ed units. That's great if I'm listening to new shows about, here's how to produce better, here's how to interview better, here's how to do these things. But if I'm not actually thinking about it and applying it to my own practice and thinking about, here's an example of what I've done in the past that could be improved. Right? Then what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to your point, the elite of the elite athletes, I mean, they are constantly, not only they, continuing to take the free throws, continuing to shoot, continuing to work out in the gym, they're doing those things to keep their body up, right? But the tape, watching, they're watching the opponents, they're watching tape from the last time they played that team, or right? So yeah, it's all part of it. And so again, as business people, the only way for us to be on our game is to continually be educating ourselves on other things. Like we did a podcast on how to have hard conversations. Right.
Two-parter.
It was a two-parter, right? And I had just finished reading a book called Crucial Conversations. Again, it's all about sharpening those skills so that we can, going back to one of another podcast, being significant.
That's right.
Right. So the more we learn, the more we earn, and the more significant we can be.
You heard it here first, folks. This episode of the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast is brought to you in honor of the National Medal of Honor Heritage Center, a BNI member nonprofit organization right here in the heart of downtown Chattanooga. The center is a local museum dedicated to the history of the Medal of Honor and Chattanooga's rich history, from the first medals in 1863 to the latest medals. They tell the stories of courage in the face of danger demonstrated by the recipients and educate future generations on the character values associated with the Medal of Honor: patriotism, citizenship, courage, integrity, sacrifice, and commitment. A good referral for the Heritage Center would be businesses and organizations who wish to help honor the legacy of the Medal of Honor and military service. Find out more at the links below or at mohhc.org. Alrighty, well, this has been another great episode of the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast. Elaine, thank you so much for all the knowledge bombs. We want to give a special shout out, special thanks to Wavelength Space for hosting us, and for Mad Honey Rentals for the beautiful set design behind us. If you're listening to the show and you like the show, which I hope you like the show, be sure to subscribe, like, rate, review. All of those things really do help us a lot, so that would be really helpful. YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, whatever your preferred platform is. And Elaine, I'm a new dad, and I hear you got a dad joke for me.
I do. So do you know how to make an egg roll?
Mm-mm.
You push it.
Simple is the easiest answer. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time on the BNI Southeast Tennessee podcast.